Hey everybody, it's Tough. This video we're going to go over firmware flashing and what you need to do for that. So we're looking at the device on the desk and my desktop. So the first thing you'll need is some software. I'll put all these links in the video description so you have them. But the first thing that you need to look at is Teensy, which is an add-on for the Arduino IDE, which is what we'll be using. You need to pay attention to, this line right here that tells you which versions of the Arduino IDE, the version of Teensy that you're downloading supports. So in our case, the latest is 189. So just go ahead and pick your OS here. I'm on Windows, so I've already got this downloaded. And then over on Arduino, we're looking for 1.8.9. Luckily, that's the current version. Sometimes, Teensy, like up until a week or two ago, it only supported 1.8.8. So you had to go into the previous releases and find the version that the latest version that the Teensy supported. In our case, we can just download the latest because it says 189. I personally like to use the zip file. So instead of installing it, you can do whatever you want, but I downloaded this. And then you need my code. So this is on my GitHub. And yeah, right now I just updated this. You just need to watch for it's a Teensy joystick and look at the releases right here. Right now, this is all there is. I might update this. Well, I will update this as I improve stuff. So you've got all that downloaded. Let's look at what we've got here. So the first thing you need to do is kind of extract stuff. I'm just going to extract this here. I like 7-zip because it's magical. Done. I don't think you have to do this, but I like to run the Arduino IDE first. Make sure it runs, close it. Once that's done, you can run the Teensy installer. You want to, point this. So this is asking you to select the Arduino folder. We are in my downloads here. There it is. So it just likes that. Now it's asking you which Teensy libraries to install. You can install all of them. It's not going to hurt you. The only one that we're using, though, is Bounce 2. So if you want to deselect all and just select that, if you're a minimalist, you can, but you can install all of them. It doesn't really matter. Next, what it's doing is it's dropping stuff into the Arduino IDE. Let's go ahead and extract my stuff. There it is. So let's open the Arduino IDE. All right, so here we go. What you need to do before you do anything else is come up to Tools. You need to select the board. In this case, I'm doing all of these on Teensy LCs. I've done a few on 3.2s, but you need to specify which one you've bought. That's an LC. We need serial keyboard plus mouse plus joystick. And then I like to optimize for the fastest. And then that's the setup that you do. Now we need to drop the code in here. Go back to the folder. Let's open this with Notepad. Oh, this is probably going to be horrible. But why is that all messed Oh, there we go. Okay. So you need the Joy INO file. Goes in the main folder here. Let's go ahead and save this. We're going to call this why not? And then we need to, this little arrow here, we need to add a new tab. Call it name.c. Copy, select all copy. This just gives the Teensy a unique name so it doesn't show up as just a generic USB device. So we need to save this, and we are good. We're good to go. So now over here, I want you to watch the Teensy. From the factory, these things come and pre-installed with a app called Blink. So when you first plug it in, it's just going to blink. I'm plugging it in now. So it's blinking. All right, so what we're going to do, okay, so it's setting up my device down there. You can't see it because the cam's in the way. I'm just going to let it finish. While that's going, let's go ahead and open up joy.cpl. This is a good thing to just have open so you can watch and see what's happening. So that's going. Let's flash it now. So you've got the board, the USB type, and the optimization setup. You've got the main code, the main sketch. These are called sketches. You got this in here. You've got this in here. And then you can just upload that sucker. This always makes me nervous for some reason. It's got to compile it. We want this one right there. It's going to ask you just want that right there, raw HID Teensy. Yes, that's what I want. Okay, so it's programmed, and there is my gamepad, which you can open. So now I'm going to just kind of, there we go. Push the button in. Boop. All right. Oh, you probably can't see that. There we go. Looking good, looking good. Okay, that's all good. We are good to go. So now I'm going to show you some stuff inside of this code here. This is for you DIYers that you need to be aware of. You need to be aware of which analog pins on the Teensy that you soldered the joystick signal wires to, the blue wires. In this case, like I said, I did analog 8 and 9. Depending on which direction the axis here moves when you move the joystick, you might need to flip-flop those. This is the digital pin that you soldered your button to, digital pin 0. This is if you put an extra LED, which I'm going to do for this customer because this is a Tartarus and the Teensy will be inside the device, so he needs to be able to see the boot up stuff, and that's done with an LED. The binding, this is the button binding. So this is the when you are in keyboard mode, that's what the button, the joystick button does. When you're in keyboard mode, this is what the up, down, left, right, and modifier keys look like. So there's this feature called keyboard or digital mode where you can make the joystick output keystrokes, like WASD style keystrokes, instead of analog output. And this is to support games that do not have direct input support or do not have X input support combined with mouse support. There are some games like that. There's more than a few games like that. We're talking about PC. If you're on Zim, or this won't matter. This right here, these are the upper and lower bounds for the stick. There's a calibration mode that we're going to talk about. Really, you need to come back and do this after you've glued everything down, I've not glued everything down yet, so these values are going to change. This is the keyboard mode values for the offset. So the offset is how far you have to move the stick from center before it starts registering sending keystrokes. This is just to basically boost your keyboard mode, digital mode, dead zone, just a tad if you need to. For the smaller sticks, I just keep it at 0. It feels better. This is the scale for the modifier key for left shift. So you can be in a hold to walk mode or hold to run mode, because different games do it differently. And this is the point. So this is 60% basically. You have to move the stick 60% of its total available range before it will either push the shift key to run or to walk, for both axes. And that's all you should need. These defines are all you should need to mess with. This stuff, don't touch. Basically, all the code from here below, don't touch it. With the exception of these guys. So what these do, when you're first setting this stick up, you're going to want to uncomment them and open up Notepad. And it will print out stuff for the boot up. So we're going to go ahead and look at that a little bit. So I'm just going to uncomment them. And what it's going to do is this function is going to print out the initial state values, which you're going to need for debugging, potentially. And then this will, once this prints, you'll see one chunk print. And then after that, immediately start rotating the stick as max at the maximum deflection as you can. You don't have to go crazy with it because you got 5 seconds to do it. But just rotate it at maximum deflection, and then it's going to print out the upper and lower boundaries for you, and that's what you go and plug in here. And we're going to look at that. But you need to wait to do that until you've glued the stick down, because it's going to move otherwise. So you need to glue it down, put the dome on, and then do this. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it now so you can kind of see what happens. Okay, let's close that. Let's open up a notepad that is blank. And we are going to, I'm just going to hold the stick here. Let's upload it. So it's solid. Don't do anything. Don't do anything yet. It's blinking. We're going to talk about that. Ignore that. There, it printed out. So I'm going to rotate it as much as I can. There we go. So this tells you the dead zone that it calculated, the upper and lower boundaries it calculated, the calculated X and Y axis values at rest. You can see this stick is nice and tight pretty well. So it calculated the dead zone at 38 values. That's nice and tight. And then we've got the keyboard mode offsets, and then it will give you, when you rotated, the upper and lower boundaries. So you'll take these values and you'll go and plug them here. I'm going to do this again after I've glued the stick down and put the dome on it. So I'm going to have to rotate this again to get the true values, because the stick moves a little bit in the cup without being glued. So just keep in mind you're going to have to do this a few times. So I want to go back and uncomment. I'll comment those back out because I don't want them right now. 2 slashes will do it. And then we're going to talk about the boot mode a little bit. I've talked about it a little bit in previous videos, but we're going to go over it again. So let's, let me say it first. So when it first boots up, the light is solid for 5 seconds, and it is calculating the center of where the stick rests. So don't touch the stick. Leave it alone. Let it center itself and rest. And then once the LED starts blinking, that's your opportunity to go into one of the keyboard modes. So it's just giving you 5 seconds to blink, and that's a 5-second period which you can do some input. So one input is pushing the button in, like the stick button, and that will just put you in regular keyboard mode with no walk-run modifier. And then that works great for source games like Portal and Half-Life and other games that you don't hold a key to walk or to run. And more modern games like PUBG, which we're going to look at, you have to hold shift to run. So the way that works is once you've determined with Joy CPL which direction is up, you move the stick Which direction is that? Bloop, bloop. It's this. It's up. Up is when it's blinking, you can push the stick all the way up. So if you push the stick past 80% deflection, it'll trigger that as a hold to walk mode. If you pull it down, it's hold to run mode. So we're going to look at hold to run and then look at PUBG just to demonstrate that. So we commented out. Yep, good. All right, so we're going to do this again. And then when the LED blinks, we're going to pull it down. I got to make sure that I remember where that is. Okay. All right. Upload. Bloop. So it lights solid. Don't touch it. Now it's blinking. All right, I pulled it down, and the light stays solid. That reminds you that you are in keyboard mode. And look, I had the focus on this window here, so it wrote some crap in the window. So you can actually do this in Notepad. You can see what it does. It will output. I'm just moving the stick, and it outputs keystrokes with the modifier. Notepad's not a good representation of how it actually works because it's just a character buffer. You really just need to play in game or use a keystroke watcher to see what it's doing. But we don't need half of this crap open. Let's go into PUBG. I'm probably going to trim this video up to cut out the middle while all this crap loads, but I just want to demonstrate how this works. So while it's loading, I'll just talk. PUBG is one of those games that does not support direct input, which by default the device, our Teensy, is a direct input controller. But it does use X input, and X input is a fancy way of saying an Xbox 360 controller. It means more than that, but that's basically what it is. So I've tried both. My keyboard mode works better because all the Xbox 360 controller mode on the PC PUBG does is it does digital input. So you're sending it analog controller input, but then it just converts it to digital input, and it feels weird. So I made this keyboard mode to have less input lag, so you're not going through a X input host application. And I do 8-axis with a walk run modifier. So let's just go into training mode here. And I've always had the naked Asian dude with a fro in PUBG. That's always been my guy. Always. Even in the mobile version when I played PUBG Mobile, that's what it was. From day one. That's my feller. All right, here we go. So. All right. Super weird edit. So PUBG sucks in terms of local recording. Couldn't figure it out. So I had to come back and do this in a different game. This is Ring of Elysium, which is a little bit easier to capture. I hope all this comes through and makes sense. Anyways, I'm just trying to show off keyboard mode. So here's, kind of walking-ish forward, back, left, right. And then if you peg the stick, so walking, 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 running. Walking, walking, running, 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 walking, running, walking, backwards. Anyway, so that's kind of how that works. I hope all that comes through. Sorry for the weird edit. Hope it all makes sense. It's probably going to cut from PUBG to this and then back to PUBG while I talk in the original video. So thanks for putting up with me of how this works. So you could use X input mode if you wanted to, but until they update the game such that it does true analog input on PC, there's no point. Just use my mode. And you're going to run into other games like this on PC. You might get lucky. Fortnite is an exception. It will use true analog input from a 360 controller, so you can use the host app that I've got, and it will work great, but PUBG is not, so sorry, guys. Anyways, so that's basic flashing for you DIYers. You should know how to do the applications you need to download. You should know how to flash the stick. You should know how to edit some of these defines to customize your stuff just a little bit. So, yeah, I think that's it. Let me know if you've got questions. Obviously, I'm around if you need help. But that should get you started and get you dangerous with this code here and with flashing your device. Anyways, thanks, guys. I hope that helps. I'll catch y'all later. Bye.